Okay, it's 5:30, you guys. Welcome. Tonight is Durango City Council meeting. Today is July 1st, 2025. It's 5:30. Could we have the roll call?
Councillor Buell,
Here.
Councillor Gonzalez, Councillor Coso,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Woodruff,
Here.
and Mayor Yazzie.
Here.
The next item on the agenda, Mayor, is reading of the Indigenous Land Acknowledgement. Tom, could you have the recording?
This is a call to honor and respect Indigenous sovereignty and self-determination. As residents and visitors of Durango, we are called upon to educate ourselves about the history and cultural heritage of the land we inhabit. The city of Durango is situated on the ancestral homelands and territories of the Nuchu, Ute, Jicarilla Apache, Pueblos of New Mexico, Hopi-Sinom, Hopi, and Dene Navajo nations. The original stewards of this land were forcibly removed and exposed to countless atrocities by the United States government, including repeatedly broken treaties, forced assimilation, the tragic legacy of Indian boarding schools, and the loss of ancestral homelands. We recognize lasting generational trauma exists within Native communities today. We affirm the continuing importance of ancestral sites to descendant communities as integral to the living cultural landscape. This acknowledgement only becomes meaningful when combined with accountable relationships and informed actions. May this serve as a step toward inclusion and reconciliation.
The next item on the agenda is the introduction of the translator.
Hi, good evening. My name is Liz Torres, and I am here with my colleague, B. Torres. And today we will interpret simultaneously for those of you on Teams. And if you are on Teams, please click on the More menu, then Language and Speech, and then select the language of your heart from there. Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Liz Torres y estoy aquí con mi colega Vi Torres. El día de hoy vamos a estar interpretando simultáneamente. Si por favor usted se encuentra en Teams, únase a la interpretación por el menú de más y allí puede seleccionar el idioma de su corazón. And we can go ahead and get started.
The next item on the agenda is opening remarks by Mayor and Council.
Does anybody have any opening remarks?
Yeah, I'd like to thank the city for the help on attending the CML. I wanted to highlight too, during the Colorado Municipal League meeting, both Marty Poole was acknowledged by Eagle Sustainability folks on some excellent work being done and some shared knowledge there, as well as Sarah Hill and her team for the microtransit program. Several communities had copied our microtransit program, so just wanted to call out that those were individual conversations at CML that were really nice ones to have. So really enjoyed the conference.
Okay, thank you. And I'd like to thank Kelly Smith for her service here for the city of Durango. I really do appreciate your leadership over the past, few months here, almost a year. But yeah. And then also, happy 4th of July on Friday. Okay, anybody else?
The next item on the agenda is presentations and proclamations, with a proclamation recognizing July as Parks and Recreation Month.
Designation as July as Park and Recreation Month. Whereas the parks and recreation activities are an integral part of communities throughout the country, including the city of Durango. And whereas parks and recreation professionals build healthy, inclusive, resilient communities by providing spaces for people of all ages, backgrounds, and abilities to gather and play and connect. And whereas the city of Durango's Park and Recreation Department enhances the lives of residents and visitors through its stewardship of more than 3,400 acres of parks and open spaces and miles of trails, recreational programming, and community services. And whereas our park and recreation services are vitally important to establishing and maintaining the quality of life in our city, ensuring the health and well-being of our residents, and contributing to the economic and environmental validity of Durango. And whereas the U.S. House of Representatives has designated July as Park and Recreation Month. And now, therefore, be it resolved by the City of Durango City Council that July 2025 is recognized as Park and Recreation Month in the city of Durango.
The next item on the agenda, Mayor, is city manager updates.
Yes, Mayor and Council, I do have 2 updates, and while Kelly is still standing, if she wouldn't mind coming up just for a quick second. Just want to take the opportunity to recognize and thank Kelly for all of her work as being a Parks and Recreation Director. I know the decision to leave Durango is a difficult one, but I think it's probably the best for her. And as much as we hate to see her leave, we do want to thank her for her contributions that you've brought to the city of Durango and the Parks and Recreation Department. And on behalf of myself and our executive leadership team, thank you so much for your camaraderie and your team's mentality of working together. It's been an honor working with you, and we wish you the very best. And secondly, you'll have another staff member join us. Gloria Platt is our new Chief Financial Officer. Yesterday was her first day on the job, so we are happy to have Gloria start. Gloria comes to us with a lot of experience and kind of has that unicorn experience of both audit and budget, as well as being a GFOA examiner for budget presentations on budget books. So very excited to have her here. I know we did appoint her, I believe it was in May, early May, and we didn't have the ability to meet her. She was still doing things and working on the transition. So just wanted to give her an opportunity just to say hi, introduce herself, and go from there. Those are all my updates.
Great, thank you, Jose.
The next item on the agenda is committee, board, and liaison reports.
Kip, you gotta have something.
I just wanted to mention, it's not quite in this category, but close. We're doing the coffee meeting with the commissioners again tomorrow. So really looking forward to that and making sure that we're keeping connections to our commissioners, and especially since the new commissioner's coming on. So otherwise, I was at a CML meeting most weeks. So.
Okay,
Just, I'm sorry.
okay, go ahead.
Announce I was also at CML and got to sit on some great community building and also learning from our colleagues in other cities. So I had a very educational conference. Thank you.
Thank you. I was also at the Colorado's municipality league meeting, and it was very eventful. I went to a couple of workshops about the state of the state, and the one point that I think stood out from all the other communities that I spoke to and some of the leaders of the conference was the fact that we all had to be aware of the fact that our budgets probably are going to be not as robust this coming year. And that also was passed along from the governor. He also mentioned the fact that, we still are in a big deficit of 1.2 billion, that we're going to have to tighten our belts. But other than that, I'm glad to report that everybody that I spoke to thinks very highly of Durango, and that's real impressive. And then when I think about the structural workshops I went to about how to do something or how to do it better, it seems like Durango is on the leading edge of all of those. So we're doing really well. So I'm really happy to report that. And that's all.
The next item on the agenda is public comment on action item only. We have 2 people signed up for public comment under 13, but no one signed up under this section.
Ready.
Would you like me to move to the consent agenda?
Yep.
Consent agenda is 8.1, approval of minutes. 8.1.1 is approval of minutes of the City Council special meeting on June 17th, 2025. 8.1.2 is approval of minutes of the City Council regular meeting of June 17th, 2025. There are no final reading of ordinances. Adoption of resolutions by consent. There are 3. 8.3.1 is a resolution approving allocation of the round 2 2025 Lodgers Tax Arts and Culture funding. 8.3.2 is a resolution approving the allocation of Renew grant funds. 8.3.3 is a resolution approving the adoption of Durango Transit's updated Title VI plan. There are no other administrative items or requests for public hearings. 8.6 is introduction of ordinances, with 8.6.1 an ordinance amending in pertinent part the Durango Code of Ordinances, Chapter 24, Traffic and Vehicles, Article 1, Application and Adoption of Model Traffic Code, Section 24-3, amendments to the Model Traffic Code. 8.7, there are no requests for excused absences.
Mayor and council, if I may, staff would request that one of the councilors pull 8.6.1 introduction of ordinances from the consent agenda. There are some changes that we need to make to that ordinance. And so after pulling that item, if the motion could be made to table that until the next meeting so that we can update the ordinance with the proper areas that need to be add it onto there and then reintroduce it at the next council meeting.
I'll pull item 8.6.1.
Second.
Any others need to be pulled? Any others to pull?
Any others? You want,
Yeah. Okay. I'll approve the consent agenda, removing 8.6.1.
Second.
Question. How do we have discussion around 8.6.1?
We're gonna pull it and then under items pulled from the consent agenda.
We'll have the discussion.
It'll be-
Yeah. Yeah.
Great, thanks.
Counselor Gonzalez? Mayor Yazzie?
yes,
Mayor Pro Tem Woodruff?
Yes.
Counselor Buell?
Yes.
Counselor Koso?
Yes.
Make the next item 8.6.1 if.
I would like to make a motion to table this till the next meeting.
Second.
discussion?
I had a couple of questions that might roll into a rewrite or not. I don't know. So just wanted to talk about the issue of a registered owner failing to pay a penalty and us not being able to immobilize the vehicle. I didn't know if that's something that is by state requirements or if that's something that we're writing into our ordinance itself.
A lot of this was modeled directly after the model traffic code, although we used some examples from other cities around Colorado that already had this. So I'll have to double check and can get back to you
Okay.
on whether that is in the state statute.
That'd be great. That one, and then as well, so immobilizing the vehicle, and then as well, if the owner verifies that they were not driving the vehicle, the registered owner is not required to identify who was driving the vehicle. That would be the other issue. I didn't know if that was state.
That is in the model traffic code. So
That
we
is.
don't have, any
Great.
discretion there.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Mayor Yazzie?
Aye,
Mayor Pro Tem Woodruff?
Yes.
Counselor Gonzalez? Counselor Koso?
Yes.
And Counselor Buell?
Yes.
The next item on the agenda is, so there are no public hearings, no resolutions. So the next item would be item 12. First consideration of ordinances, an ordinance amending in pertinent part the Durango Code of Ordinances, Chapter 23, Taxation, Article 2, Sales and Use Tax, Section 23-73, Open Space Parks and Trails Fund, Restricted Capital Improvement Fund.
I move to approve an ordinance amending in pertinent part the Durango Code of Ordinances, Chapter 23, Taxation, Article 2, Sales and Use Tax, Section 23-73, Open Space, Parks and Trails Fund, Restricted Capital Improvements Fund.
Second.
discussion? Do we have a roll call?
Mayor Pro Tem Woodruff,
Yes.
Counselor Buell,
Yes.
Mayor Yazzie,
Yes,
Counselor Koso,
Yes.
and Counselor Gonzalez. Next item is 12.2, an ordinance repealing in pertinent part the Durango Code of Ordinances, Chapter 8, Fire Prevention and Protection, Article 5, Durango Fire Protection District Fire Impact Fees.
Move to improve an ordinance repealing in pertinent part the Durango Code of Ordinances, Chapter 8, Fire Prevention and Protection, Article 5, Durango Fire Protection District Fire Impact Fees.
I'll second.
discussion? Seeing none, roll call?
Counselor Gonzalez, Counselor Koso,
Yes.
Mayor Yazzie,
Yes,
Counselor Buell,
Yes.
and Mayor Pro Tem Woodruff.
Yes.
Next item on the agenda is public comment on city matters not scheduled for a vote tonight. Could we have the recording, please? The first person signed up to speak is Johnny Redding.
Mhm.
Got a microphone for you there. Right there. Oh, yes. Well, you can swing it around.
To face you. I want to face you guys, yeah. Well, thank you for having me. I'm Johnny Radding. Do I have to give my address? Is up? I'm a resident of the city, and I am also one of the owners of Durango Organics, which is a local cannabis company, and we have a shop located here in Durango at 72 Subtle Street out in Bodo. I wrote a letter to, or an email to the city council here recently asking if they would be willing to sit down separately and discuss some of the things affecting the industry right now, mainly the licensing fees that are associated here with procuring a license within the city of Durango, as well as streamlining some of the application process in order to not only help the cannabis stores have an easier process, but maybe help the city adopt an easier process, which would obviously make less work for them and also help, bring you guys to maybe a discussion of lowering those licensing fees as well. There's the licensing fees as well as the application fees and just the fees associated with everything from moving the store from one location to another, name changes and such on as that. The city of Durango right now has some of the most expensive licensing fees that we could find in the state. They haven't been changed really since 2014. They haven't been really reevaluated or relooked at. And we feel that a lot of the concerns that maybe the city had in the beginning or us being low hanging fruit in the beginning was, we were very appreciative before of just being able to be in business. And we do applaud the city on always being the city of Durango and being very progressive in their thinking and allowing these shops even in the first place. Right now, currently, we pay $8,000 per license. There's 2 licenses that you can get in the city of Durango for cannabis. One is a retail license or recreational, and one is a medical. We are one of 2 medical stores still left in the city of Durango. So we pay a total of $16,000 a year, where there are we have 4 stores total, one here in the city, one in the county, one in Cortez, and one in Crested Butte. And obviously with what I said before, this has become the most expensive and burdensome license that we have in terms of cost. Originally they talked about the cannabis and licenses reflecting the alcohol license fee, and we would sure appreciate if we could get somewhere close to that. I think you guys have noticed the declining revenue of the industry. We had our peak during COVID, and because of legalization and all the other states which we are proponents for, it's affected the industry, and it's not, you can see through the declining revenue. Am I 3 minutes up?
Council, I'd like to move that we give an extra 5 minutes to Johnny to present.
Well, I have Carolyn too, somebody else from the industry that can't come to speak, but if you would like, whatever I can do, keep rattling on. I don't have much more, but yeah, that's really it. So if you guys would maybe go ahead and start a study session, if you could, not start a study session, but however you guys have that conversation, we would very much appreciate it. Like I said, it hasn't been reevaluated in many years, and the industry is not as good as it is. Thank you.
The next person signed up to speak is Carolyn Reich. Don't the last name there.
Hello. Okay. My name is Carolyn Reich. I'm here on behalf of Durango Organics, but also as a longtime cannabis regulator, consultant, and employee. I worked for La Plata County for 10 years. The latter part of that, I was very involved with developing and implementing the county's marijuana regulations here. I also worked closely with the city of Durango at that time as a colleague and county representative. In 2014, I began consulting and working with industry members and ultimately overseeing licensing and compliance for Durango Organics for the last 10 years. So just in parallel with what Johnny was saying, I wanted to add that, I do know that many jurisdictions across the state have streamlined their application processes and have reduced fees from the initial amounts of those licensing fees and renewal fees. Some of this came after reviewing their processes and streamlining those procedures, and then just determining that the lesser fees did cover the cost. And also in the case of Cortez, our neighbor to the west, not only to align fees with their actual costs, they have a very simple application process there. No notaries are needed. It's all administrative, which we have some of that here as well. But they also wanted to help the local businesses. They noticed those declining revenues from the tax base after COVID, and they reached out to all those businesses in their town and asked if we can all sit down and look for a solution. And though lots of comments were had, the common ground was that making the fees match the actual effort that it took to regulate there, and brought that down for the businesses was the win there. And I also believe that the city of Durango can review just the regulations and application requirements overall, and that's due. Some of the intricacies with the requirements and the annual review process seem a little out of date because everything is kind of from that 2014 and earlier time. Also because the state, the Marijuana Enforcement Division, they go through rulemaking annually every summer, and they're constantly tweaking their regulations to from stakeholder feedback, but also they just have all those things in place that they have to review. So when the local jurisdictions aren't also doing that, there tends to be little inconsistencies, and I see a little bit of that here as well. I know the state is also required to review the fees every year and evaluate them against the actual cost of the application and regulating the industry. And they have made changes over the last 10, 15 years as well. And I believe the city of Durango might have a similar obligation. I know the ordinances state the fees are to just cover the direct and indirect costs of the licensing and regulating the businesses. So again, just requesting that review of the whole process and the fees and see if there's an opportunity to streamline. And just wanted to say also that these businesses have been a part of the community for a very long time now. We employ over 50 people. We offer health insurance, and we continually are trying to keep fair wages and be a great member of this community. So thank you.
No additional people have signed up, Mayor. The next item on the agenda is other new business.
I'd like to bring one up.
Okay, let's start with
Yeah.
Jessica.
I'd like to put something on, obviously, for new business for council to consider for next council meeting. I'd like to maybe get a little review of like a study session presentation on our cannabis licensing, but maybe all business licensing. I'm not sure when the last time we looked at all of our business licensing fees, how it compares to other cities. We've been going through recently and updating our codes and like getting everything in line. So it might just be a good act, not just for cannabis. I think that is obviously impacting some businesses here in Durango. And so I think that's important, but also other businesses. So if I could have that for new business on the next agenda. Yeah,
Okay.
you don't have to second it.
I don't.
Put it on. Anyone can put
We'll
anything
do that
on.
next week.
Next week, you're going to second it.
Okay.
Copy that.
You get some time to think about
Yeah,
it.
all right.
Think about it.
Do you have what she needs? Okay,
do.
good. And you had new business?
I do. I have quite a list in no particular order and in no particular urgency, but just some issues that have come up over the last several months that I wanted an opportunity to get a briefing on. I would also support my counselor in the request for licensing. And if you could make sure you include liquor licensing in that. We had an issue come up recently, and I something I don't know anything about, so I would appreciate that be included, the liquor licensing. I have a request for study sessions or a briefing. I'm not exactly sure what the most appropriate way. Some of these, I believe, are largely administrative issues and don't necessarily require a whole policy discussion. But I do have some concern about the way we run our meetings and the opportunity for the public to weigh in and for then us to speak after we hear from the people. So that would be perhaps a briefing or a discussion on the way we run our meetings. Another item I have is regarding immigration. It came up a number of times when we were at CML. And so what options do we have to support our community members, whether it's through a resolution, whether it's through education, but we know that this issue is coming up all over Colorado and actually all over the country. So if we could get a briefing on immigration and what the city can do. Another one I have is, it relates to the question that I had for the police officer this morning, for the chief, regarding enforcement. And perhaps, how many citations are issued almost across the board, kind of relates to, as I listen to the community, there is some feedback that Durango is not historically has not given actual citations. And perhaps what that looks like in terms of how often we actually cite people for infringements of all types. And so, has it gone up? And so perhaps a briefing more on the actual citation and enforcement side of all of the things that we do. Another one relates to reviving the committees that we know that were taken out a few years back, but there has been, I think, enough community requests for whether or not we revive some of those committee meetings, or not meetings rather, but committees. Advisory committees, I think they were called. And
Really quick, Shirley,
yes,
sorry to interrupt. Are you talking about reviving the dissolute, the committees that have been dissolved?
That's
or
correct.
creating new ones?
The ones that have been dissolved.
Every single one that was dissolved.
Yes. I mean, a briefing on perhaps reviving them. And let me see. I think I had, you had that. And another question I have is just regarding pilots and how we do pilots. So if I wanted to have a pilot program in the city regarding dog parks, regarding law enforcement, regarding any particular issue, and it relates to the 7th Street and all the issues we're having, and how we create pilots, or how we might, as a council, how we discuss pilot projects in our community. So I think that's the ones I have. And again, these are in no particular, none of them are particularly urgent, but I just feel like we need to address these in the next few months.
Okay, so Shirley, let me make a suggestion here. Okay, so you're going to have to define each of these 6 areas a little bit more clearly of what you mean for to be put on the agenda.
I'm happy to do that. I
Okay,
just
good,
thought
'cause that's
this is the point where I would say this is what I want to talk
Yeah,
about.
I'm just giving you a little instruction, because it still has to be put on the agenda. Then you're going to have to defend it, when it comes out for discussion, and then we'll vote on it. Okay, thank you.
More than defend, I would say just information. So I know if I want to support, you have to have 3 counselors to support each item to get it on a discussion, bring it up to discussion. And so I think that's what Mayor Yazzie was saying, is like just more information so we know going into the next meeting if we're going to support it or not.
So, for example, I'll just
You don't need to do it now. It's just for the next meeting.
I guess so.
Okay. Yes, so several of mine are same topic area, a little more specificity on what Councilor Gonzalez had outlined. So I'd like to ask for a study session around dogs in the city. So what opportunities exist for 1 or 2 fenced off-leash dog park locations aimed at the northern section of Durango and potentially along the ART? Feel free to yell out if you need more or me to.
Yeah, 1 or 2 along where?
1 or 2 fenced off-leash dog park locations aimed at the northern section of Durango, potentially along the ART. Animas River Trail. Look at me using acronyms. What enforcement options, and again, this pairs with what Councilor Gonzalez was talking about, and potential costs do we have for the ART and major trails around existing leash laws, including fewer warnings and increased penalties? Sure.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Is that more than the presentation we had? I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago, where we're getting a new ranger. We have speed limit studies going on. We have like those efforts have already been put on. You want more information than that?
I think it pairs with what Councilor Gonzalez, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but what we were talking about was how often are we giving warnings rather than citations? How much are we putting a stick approach to dogs that are off leash? And I'm not sure we addressed that in that presentation. So
I wonder too, if you guys know or have been briefed as much on like the philosophy behind the chief's model and that sort of thing, because that's also, I think, plays a part, which I happen to know because we've talked about it lots in different meetings and stuff, but I wonder if that could be a part of it to kind of get that idea.
Yeah, certainly.
Can I ask you, do you mean enforcement of these violations?
Correct. So I'm looking for a review of what do we do from a citation standpoint, how many warnings do we give, how many times do we actually ticket, and what those changes might have, occurred over the years in our intention on more warnings, less citations, more citations, less warnings, et cetera. Does that make sense?
We'll get it on there, and then we can discuss it.
Okay, that's fine. I'd also like to ask for a staff outline on the impact of removing 7th Street and only 7th Street as part of the speed reduction pilot program, including options and timelines for another residential street to be used as a replacement in the pilot study. As part of that, I would like to see a very broad outline of the communication plan for a new pilot street that might be included.
Okay, so revisioning 7th Street would include a communication aspect of that for the new street to replace it?
For a new street, yeah. And we're just looking at that residential street. Any questions there?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
I was just,
Sure.
For the 7th Street pilot program, I believe, according to the presentation Sarah gave, that there is no, like, if we don't do 7th Street, there's no time to get the grant changed to do another street. And so it would just be, we would not get that money for that grant and we would not do that type of pilot program. Is that correct for this specific grant? Oh, sorry. Can I ask that question? I don't know. Sorry. Never mind. Sit down. That's not a question. I think so. So I think it would have to be quicker, but I don't think we could actually go through, if I'm remembering correctly from my presentation.
Legitimately, they may be able to tell us that it's 7th Street or no street.
Yeah.
But I don't necessarily believe that, maybe for the grant purposes, but we could still probably talk about another street being used next year or something along those lines.
All right. Could I ask you a question, Jessica, since you were at that briefing by Sarah? Okay, so if we did remove the 7th Street revisioning for parking, would that take us out of the whole grant? I mean, I don't know.
Sure. Mayor and council, if I may, and I'm not Mark, but I did go to a couple council meetings in my day. we're getting pretty close into discussing an item that's not on the agenda. So that's where we get into a gray area. Sarah did do that presentation at the city manager update at the previous council meeting that had the answer, I think, to maybe some of those questions. And I always say think because there could be more detailed questions on it and whatnot. So what I will do is I'll ask Sarah to email that presentation back to the council. And maybe that answers your questions, but I hesitate to get in a further dialogue about something specific that's not on our agenda.
All righty, as long as we're clear that Kip's motion or his suggestion for a new agenda item is kind of a two-part.
And I can, if the presentation is emailed out to us and I feel like I can pull it, I'll just pull it when it comes up as a possible option. Is that the?
Sure, at any time, because what we're doing here is it's literally, you say it, we place it on the agenda for review for next agenda. So since it's your item, if that does answer it, you can send me an email and just say, hey, I want to change my request to this because with the new information, and that's not a big deal.
Yeah, I do it in consult with, okay, sounds great. Last thing is just a tour of the manor. Would love to see if council would like to ask staff to organize a tour of the manor facility. We've got Joseph in the audience today, and that reminded me that this was something I have not done as a new council member. It's already been 2.5 months. They play a pretty critical role in our community. I know that I would like it. I just didn't know if the rest of council would be interested in a tour.
We don't actually have to have that as new agenda, and I can just ask Kyle to set up a tour and see who wants to go from council as an
Sounds
invite.
great. Thank you, Mayor.
Anybody else? Okay. Item 15. Adjournment. Thank you.
Good. Maybe special study session.
Yeah, I think you